Members of the Bennington County business community gathered at the Park House at Manchester's Rec Park Wednesday, November 30th, to continue discussions on how to promote the region in the wake of the collapse of the Manchester in the Mountains Regional Chamber of Commerce last spring. 2 months ago, a summit meeting held at the Equinox Resort outlined certain priorities and possible approaches to boosting Bennington County and the southern Vermont economy. Last week's meeting was a roll-up-the-sleeves meeting to flesh out how organizations like the Shires Regional Marketing Organization and the Bennington Area Chamber of Commerce could work together along with the Bennington County Regional Commission to attract jobs, industry, visitors, and more people to live in the region.
Two overall themes sort of emerged. One is that we want to do regional marketing for the area, but it's not 100% decided what exact form that takes, and that we know that there's a lot of work to be done on that. We also came to a consensus that there is a desire to work as a region for economic development, and in fact that is the best way to think about economic development. And not even regionally, but super regionally. So for example, getting our own house in order here in the Shires, and then coming together perhaps with Windham County to form a larger Southern Vermont economic development zone.
Matt Harrington, the executive director of the Bennington Area Chamber of Commerce, spoke about the opportunities for members of the millennial generation in smaller, more rural settings like Bennington County.
If you read anything about innovation, they say innovate on the fringe of where others aren't. That's where innovation actually happens. So don't innovate at the center where everything is, i.e. Boston, New York, Washington. You're just going to be in a big pool of everybody else that has a lot of talent. If you really want to do some change and do some good in the world, go to those fringe areas where they need your innovation, they need your mind the most.
Jonathan Cooper of the BCRC spoke about some other issues facing the county, such as fostering entrepreneurship and providing adequate, affordable workforce housing, and also the larger partnership involving Windham County. Together, Windham and Bennington counties were highlighted in the Southern Vermont Economic Zone Report, which was released last year. The report noted that Southern Vermont was still lagging behind the rest of other parts of the state following the 2008 recession.
So we have 44 towns and villages. It is the entirety of Windham County and Bennington County, plus the very lucky town of Weston, Vermont. They're the sort of northern bump. We have about 82,000 people in this area. And there are some shared challenges about population, demographic aging, population decline, the rates at which the tourism industries recovered from recession were relatively similar, and they lagged far behind the rest of Vermont.
Windham County, however, is ahead of Bennington County in terms of organizing and consolidating their marketing and economic development efforts. They have already developed a comprehensive economic development strategy, or CEDS, and having a CEDS in place is one of the keys to unlocking federal resources to help finance initiatives and move ideas forward. In the discussion that followed, audience members wanted to hear more about the CEDS and how it would work.
In communities that have been really effective at creating CEDS, have they actually shown economic growth as a result of it? And the second follow-up question to that is, it's so hard to crystal ball the future. And in some regards, these CEDS lay out some of that. For those communities that have been successful post-development of the CEDS, was the CEDS actually directionally correct at where they should put their efforts?
By and large, the successful CEDS is the one that makes sense to all the people that read it, and that includes the federal entities that then are able to disperse funds to encourage implementation.
Wayne Grantquist, a retired businessman who chaired the Southern Vermont Economic Zone Report last year, which triggered the conversation about why the area's economy was lagging behind other parts of the state, after the meeting spoke about the importance and advantage of getting a CEDS agreement in place.
We have about 25 to 30 organizations in Southern Vermont that are dealing with economic development, either planning, executing, marketing, et cetera, and that's terrific. But it's not integrated, it's not particularly strategic. If I live in Fairfield County, Connecticut, and I want to learn more about Vermont in the southern section thereof, I don't have a place to go. I have a lot of different places to go, but I haven't got a place to go that tells me about what our resources are, what our entertainment attractions are, what our jobs are, what our companies that are looking for help are. We have no integrated approach to the critical notion of repopulating southern Vermont. We are aging, as an example, look at me. We are aging, we are losing our young people. We are in trouble in terms of getting people to fill the jobs that we know are here and creating the jobs that will bring people here in addition. So that's the balance question. And the way I think that it can be done is through following, I'll call them the rules of creating a comprehensive economic development strategy. That's a word of art. And once you have a comprehensive economic development strategy that's approved by the U.S. government, then you become a federal economic development district. And as a district, you can call on resources that are far beyond the resources of the state of Vermont or any companies or individuals in this particular region. The way you get there is by creating a broadly based group of individuals and leaders who come together and put together a strategic plan that recognizes the inputs and the need to continue the role of local and regional groups, but puts them in an integrated strategy that kind of has an umbrella effect over it. The end goal for the zone, which is comprised of Windham and Bennington counties, is to create a SEDS that covers both counties and the entire southern Vermont region, and is based on getting Bennington up to speed so it can be a partner with the Windham County operation, which is far ahead of us and is being successful in demonstrating what a SEDS can do.
One local and newly formed business organization called Destination Manchester, which unveiled some of its ideas on filling the void left behind by the demise of the former Manchester in the Mountains Chamber during a recent Manchester Select Board meeting, may be pursuing some similar goals on a more Manchester-focused fashion, said Chris Morrow, a co-owner of the Northshire bookstore and one of the principals involved in Destination Manchester.
We'll see. Destination Manchester still isn't an official organization or anything, so we have a lot of work to do just to get up and running and to get a budget and all that sort of thing. So assuming that goes forward at some point, our main focus is obviously Manchester, but we hope to collaborate with all sorts of other organizations. One of the key points of the Destination Manchester organization is to have someone coordinating efforts both between area businesses, but also between Manchester and the state, for instance, or the Shires or BCRC, any other regional organizations that it makes sense to partner with. I think having a strong Manchester organization will only benefit the Shires, and I see a lot of room for collaboration, but again, it's very premature as we haven't even been established, and there's a lot of work to do to even see if we are a real organization or just a group of business owners with an idea.
Meanwhile, back at the Park House at the end of the summit meeting, Bill Colvin, Matt Harrington, and Jonas Spivak spoke about the next steps that lie ahead.
So I think coming out of the first Shire Summit a couple of months ago, we saw an opportunity at BCRC, BCIC to partner with the Shires RMO to co-host this meeting, given that BCRC has an obligation through legislative funding to do some regional economic development capacity building and form functionally a committee that is prepared to do a SEDS and do all of the work short of a comprehensive economic development strategy to go to Windham County and show that the Bennington region is prepared to do this work in partnership with them. So today's meeting was really the jumping off point for that, bringing together folks that are interested in doing that work and using those folks, frankly, to identify who else needs to be at the table going forward. So coming out of today's meeting, we expect many of those folks will be involved in that process going forward. Others will come to the table, and we expect to meet probably on a monthly basis from here on out to form that steering committee, educate the steering committee about what it means to do regional economic development, talk to them about identifying assets that can be built off in the region, and beginning those discussions with the Windham region about partnering for Southern Vermont SEDS.
So earlier in the meeting, we heard about economic gardening versus economic hunting. That idea of trying to build from within or develop assets that are already here. That seems like a winning strategy to you folks and the group down at the BCRC?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's the only strategy. I think that the day and time of using incentives and other resources to try to attract major employers to a region, that's a challenging game to play. And the reality is here we need to build the workforce. So even if we were successful in attracting 100 or 200 person employee business, we'd have trouble finding the workers to staff it. So I think critical to this work is identifying how do we get more people to the area, how do we get a more qualified workforce in terms of the quantity of folks working in the area, and how do we build off of what's already here. I think it's not the big splashy news of a 50 or 100 person job, but it's a much more sustainable approach to growing an economy in a region.
The bigger picture is how does Manchester, Bennington, Arlington, Pownell, and then if we even start to go over into the mountain region with Windham, how do we actually start to align as a full region so that we have numerous assets to go out and market to the world? And I think the real key of that was breaking down, or what I like to call boundary busting, a lot of the boundaries that we've created in our mind over the last 200 years. And I think that this summit, as well with the last summit and the meetings that we know we're going to have moving forward, is really going to be about boundary busting. Let's put away the past of where we've kind of said each town is its own entity. It's not that we're getting rid of that, but just like you would with the Vermont brand, you might coalesce around a Shires of Vermont brand, or you might coalesce around a Southern Vermont Economic Development Zone, so that you can attract more people, so that the assets become closely aligned. We're not duplicating efforts, but we can go out just like you would with the Berkshires or the Poconos or anything like that. You'd say, come to Southern Vermont because it's a great place to live, work, and grow your family.
Well, what I really enjoyed about today was that we were able to take what we learned from the first summit and roll up our sleeves and get to work today with the people that came back. And in fact, most of the people that were at the first summit came back for this additional meeting, which is a real testament to the passion that people have for our area. A lot of great initiatives were started today, tangible things that we'll be able to move forward on very quickly, although some things just do take more time, particularly when you're talking about economic development. But we do have some low-hanging fruit, to use a phrase that has come up quite a lot in terms of regional marketing, and we'll be getting to work on that right away because the need is immediate.
And what are some of those low-hanging fruits that you folks discussed there in the regional marketing side of things? Is there one or two things that are priority items that you want to get going on as soon as possible, or is that a subject for more discussion?
No, not at all. We did precisely that. I did a sort of a shopping list of things that were very important, and then nailed down 3 priorities that we're getting to work on right away. Number one that the group felt was most immediate was getting a regional area guide going, and along with that, a regional website of some type. Secondarily, we wanted to do an asset inventory, our recreational opportunities, our events, basically what are all the 2 things in our marketing toolbox that we have available to us to use to market out to the world. And then thirdly, identify those target markets. Where are the people that are primarily coming here now? Then use the assets that we've identified to customize the marketing approach to use at those different markets.
For the GNet TV News Project, I'm Andrew McKeever.